Hi, my name is Maria and welcome to my channel MH Books. I have my coffee here. I need my coffee. I've had a morning where I've been trying to film the page 112 tag. I'll get to my problems with that in a second. But first, happy Sunday. The reason I decided to do this tag is because I have a slight difficulty. I should show you the picture of my books here, not those ones. The picture. These are books on my to be filmed book haul before, when I exclude the following books. So there's 12 books there. I'm excluding these books because they were shown in my Friday reads recently. So consider them hauled. I'm excluding the 3 books that are going to appear in this tag, so they will be hauled as part of this video. And the next 3, one of which is a library book, are going to appear on my Tome Topple TBR, not my March of the Mammoths, my Tome Topple TBR. I think one of them, at least maybe 2, could actually fit in. So I'm not showing them. One of them is a bit difficult not to show, but it's the library book. They will be on my Tome Topple TBR, which I should film quite soon as well. Tome Topple is happening at the end of this month. Full details in anybody else's video and in my video when I get to film. So the other 3 books, when I was looking at my book haul, I didn't know a lot about, and then I saw Sean's video and I thought, yep, maybe this is one that I should do a page 112 tag on. Now the reason I don't know much about them is because I got them Hodges Figgis. Hodges Figgis is the largest bookshop in Dublin. It's actually now owned by Waterstones, but it's still Hodges Figgis. And it sells in a little section any of the kind of the shop soiled, kind of vaguely soiled books. So they are vaguely they're not damaged or anything, they're just not, they look like they've been in my handbag books. There's a little bit dusty and things. So you can get them quite cheap from them. So I went through and I picked books deliberately I didn't know a lot about, that I thought looked intriguing. And I think at least one of these I did actually read. Now this is where I have to make a confession. I don't always read page 112. Sometimes I read page 111. There was a reason for that, and that's because when I first saw the 112 tag, I saw it from Simon Savage. Then I went over to Sean the Bookmaniac's channel to watch him do the tag. And then when the next time I was in a bookshop, I forgot the page number. So I decided to do page 111 as it happened. So sometimes I still read page 111 and sometimes the page 112. So that's my confession. I have actually read page 112 for all these readings. And now, this is the longest intro ever, we're getting to my difficulty filming. And not the best at reading out loud. These authors that I have selected, we have one Aussie, one North American, I think Canadian and now lives in America, and one English person. And to hear me read with an Irish accent sounds completely wrong, but what can I do? So I think the next time I try this tag, I'm going to do Irish books. And then I'm not great at doing the timing properly in reading, so there's just a few places there where it's not very obvious that it's dialogue that started. I might try and tell you on the screen. I think there's a bit of a difficulty in that somebody has actually broken one of the rules that I'm only learning as a beginner writer, in that the person who does the action you assign the dialogue to, and this writer has put another character doing an action and then goes immediately into this dialogue, which is another character, which is obvious when you're reading it to yourself but not out loud. Okay, none of that makes any sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it where I recorded. The other problem is, because this is the first time I did this, I tried recording on my, I was going to say iPad, iMac, and the MacBook doesn't have great sound quality, so it sounds funny too. So it's been a bit of a morning, but we're going with it, okay? Because, you know, I don't edit videos that harshly, and I'm just going to listen to it. And now the MacBook is running out of battery, so hold on. Okay, I'm back. I'm probably just as well, because I did actually just re-watch that and realise I never explained about the page 112 tag. I did on a previous filming, but I didn't explain the one I've just done. So, the page 112 tag is based upon a literary prize where the panel just read a page 112. I think it's a French literary prize. And the idea is, by just judging upon using page 112, can you judge the quality of the book? Knowing that a lot of effort is put at the beginnings of books and sometimes the endings of books, so that by the time they get to page 112, you have the quality that you should expect for the majority of the book. So can you judge from that? The books I've picked here are probably more of the literary fiction bent, but as it happens, something great happens in all the narratives just at this page. So I think maybe they've copped onto the page 112. I'm also wondering, does this work for narrative-driven novels? Is one page enough? So I'm thinking about toying with the idea there. Do we read around for several pages? Because a narrative-driven book should be more about, you know, the story progression doesn't make you turn the pages. So maybe a chapter, you know, a combination of the choose the chapter, page 112, where you just read the chapter that contains page 112. That might be an idea for that one. So I might try that in the future for narrative. But let's try and crack on with this, because more things are going to go wrong, and this video will be forever. And yeah, my upload speed is also terribly crappy. Okay, so can we press play here?
Pardon. He had gone back to lying with his head out over the lip of the shaft, and was dangling one arm in. I don't like it. I knew I sounded prissy, uptight, worrying about the rules. I felt myself flush. I added, I've just got a bit of a thing about heights. Ian sat up again. Fair enough. His tone was determinedly light and casual. There was a long, uncomfortable silence, with no eye contact. At last I cleared my throat. I might go then. Righty-o. I'll come back down soon. Meet you at the bridge? Okay, be careful. Always. He gave me a comical wave, wiggling his fingers. There was, of course, more to my dread of that shaft than a simple fear of heights or depths, rather of falling. It was to do with the discovery of what it meant to Ian. The way the white spots of his cheekbones coloured when he showed it to me, the animation in him, the excitement, that this jubilant engagement was something so risky, was how he picked himself back up, recovered from what Dean Price had been doing to him. I didn't reflect on it this way then, or articulate it to myself. It was just another thing that made me feel bad, and that I therefore tried my best to take no notice of. And it was such a release to have Ian back to more or less his normal self. Neither of us mentioned the shaft after that, and we returned to a meeting by the creek most afternoons. If he didn't show up, I didn't think about where he might be. A kind of blankness came over me, and I'd take on some repetitive task, like carefully removing petals from the tiny purple flowers that grew in the bank, until it began to get dark, and was time to get up on my frozen legs and jog back down to the path over the hill to Hope.
Okay. So that's an intriguing piece. I think we have here a female narrator looking back on a childhood or teenage event. I'm intrigued here as to what exactly has gone on with that boy. and why he is playing on what sounds like some type of mine shaft in order to avoid sounds like some horrific event that happens. The relationship between the girl and the boy. You gotta wonder about that. And her total reliance upon this boy appearing at the creek and her trying to distract herself. So yeah, this is a book I'm glad I picked up, and we'll hope to be reading soon, but there's also a reason for that one, which we'll get on to when we identify the book. Next.
Could not these people have any respect for their own physical remains? He did not know if the practice of stuffing a piece of coal into the mouth to represent Hindu cremation had been started by the railway out of expedience and continued by the Indians out of practicality, or if the reverse were true. Either way, the numbers of those with malaria was rising quickly now. Men crumbling over on the job, the hospital full. Already Alan had informed him thus far 5 had died from fever, their bodies transported a few miles at a camp and abandoned along the railroad's shoulder. This, he had learned, was standard practice for Indian cadavers. After Jeremy had backed away from Singh's basin and spat a piece of bacon out into his napkin, he asked, "Where is the rest of the man?" Singh tilted his head slightly to one side. "The animal, sir." His white robe and turban were impeccably clean, his manners flawless. Several times Jeremy had sensed Singh's disappointment at having only an American to serve, not a nationality known for its appreciation of the finer points of social customs. Around Singh, whenever he remembered, he attempted better posture. Even the bones? The skull? In Maine there would have been more remains after a full year in the forest. "Oh no, sir. There are bones." As proof, with 2 fingers he delicately plucked something out of the basin. Jeremy turned away. This was the day he had the men start the bonfire, ordering them to keep it burning day and night. With the wood so wet from the monsoons, it took a lot of kerosene to start and had to be periodically slaked with more. It popped from the moisture in the wood, tossing embers high into the air. From the fire sizzled a thick black smoke that quickly obscured any cadaver thrown on top. He ordered them to burn all the dead bodies from then on, no matter what their religion or burial preferences.
Okay, this sounds like historical fiction. We have American with an Indian servant working on a railroad from the sounds of it, with lots of people dying, Indians dying of malaria, and quite a comic scene of the Indian servant presenting what's left of a dead body, which doesn't seem much. So our American is obviously from Maine. It's an awful lot of showing, not telling in this. And it's a little bit intimidated by that servant. This sounds like an introduction to a character, so this is coming in at page 112, so we have a character being introduced. So I'm wondering, does this novel have many characters in it? I like the evil sense of humour in this, and I will definitely be picking this up soon. Yeah, intriguing. Okay, should we try the next one?
By the time Schreiber pointed weakly at the Jew, Muller had looked away. Alexandra smiled, perfectly relaxed, smoking a newly lit cigarette. Rossler shot Muller a look, and he returned to his place behind Schreiber's chair. "Drink up," Rossler said, rubbing his creaking back, "and we'll get this thankless business over with." Alexandra came over. "They don't see me. They have no interest in me. I've been here for years, since the place opened. There is nothing that could happen now, nothing I could do that would make them pay me a single moment of attention, except, perhaps, if I would slit my throat. Then they would notice me. although I fear only as much as was necessary to clear me away and write up the report. I'm hopeless, they say. Hopelessly insane. Rosler turned his back on both of them and returned his jacket to the grass. Soon they will think the same of you, that you are lost, I mean. This is just the final effort, an act, if you will, to placate their consciousness. They are generous in giving you that. See that one over there? Bald, with a long scar like a frowning mouth that runs across his forehead. Schreiber could see him. He sat in a chair, very like Schreiber's, and his head lolled on his shoulder. That one got sliced on the day he arrived, a miner. He took his pit to the pit props, as he and his colleagues were extending the steam in a new direction. He couldn't be stopped. Put the roof down on top of 6 men. No one knows how he got out. They found him doing it again, and it took another 6 men to hold him down. They said he'd seen the devil. They brought him here strapped to a board of wood. The doctors couldn't get any sense out of him, so Rosler cut out a part of his brain. If you ask nicely, next time you're in his office, I dare say he'll show it to you. He has it in a jar. The poor fool hasn't said a word since. So we should be grateful it's only the gymnastics for you. He's at it again.
Okay, wow. So that ends with there's a piece of a patient's brain seemingly in the doctor's office. So we're basically in some type of insane asylum from the sounds of it. I'm hoping this is historical fiction, and that it's not meant to be contemporary, because that's quite horrendous. And our main protagonist there, who's speaking the most, so most of this dialogue is actually from one person, is actually been there for a while and is hopelessly insane. It's intriguing, and not as much as I'm not getting the enjoyment the others had. The relationship between the boy and the girl from our first one is intriguing. The second one, we have a sense of humor, and the sense that this is a big epic, maybe a big epic plot. This one, because of its location in an insane asylum, is a little bit more claustrophobic, and maybe I would have to be in the correct mood to read it. I do like, though, that they refer, like, there's a piece of your man's brain sitting in the doctor's office. If you're lucky, you might let you see it. So I still want to read this, probably not as much as the other two. Okay, shall we see what the books are? Right, I was saying far too much there, so I'm just refilming it. Because, if you want to say you should be meditating. It should be not The first book, Hope Farm by Peggy Frew, is the Aussie writer. It's shortlisted for the 2016 Stella Prize. I said I might be picking this up earlier rather than later. That's because we have Aussie April, heck, look at Dan, hashtag Aussie April, happening at the moment. I do think I'm more likely to pick up this one though, which is Foreign Soil, by Maxime Benba-Clark. I'm still saying but what the hell of it. But this is our Hope Farm, Peggy Frew, and shall we just read a little bit of synopsis now that we have read page 112. It's the winter of 1985. Hope Farm sticks out of the ragged landscape like a decaying tooth in weather-bound walls sagging into the underground. Silver's mother, Ishtar, has fallen for the charismatic Miller, and the three of them moved to the rural hippie commune to make a new start. At Hope, Silver finds unexpected friendship and at last a place to call home. But it's also here that at 13 she's thrust into an unrelenting adult world, and the walls begin to become tumbling down with deadly consequences. Hope Farm is a devastating, beautiful story about the broken bonds of childhood and the enduring cost of holding back the truth. So I was right. It's a child come teenager. 13 is actually on the cusp of both. And the indication there of adulthood and all the rest of it, and what's happened to that boy, making me far more intrigued to pick up this book yet again. So soon. If only I was retired and could clone me and read more books quicker. It'd be so much better. Okay, our second book is Audrey Schulman's 3 Weeks in December. There's a lion in the front of it. This book is a Europa edition book. I do love their French flops, books as objects. And our synopsis. So I was writing about historical fiction. In 1899, Jeremy, a young engineer, told you I couldn't read very well, leaves a small town in Maine to oversee the construction of a railroad across British East Africa. Okay, I thought it was in India. We're in Africa. In charge of hundreds of Indian labourers, he becomes the reluctant hunter of 2 lions that are killing his men in nightly attacks in their camp. Plagued by fear, that must have been the animal that killed and ate most of the man that was in the bowl that was being presented to him in the page 112. Plagued by fear, racked with malaria, and alienated by a secret he can tell no one. He takes increasing solace in the company of an African man who scouts for him. In 2000, Max, an American ethnobotanist, travels to Rwanda in search of an obscure vine that could become a life-saving pharmaceutical. Stationed in the mountains, she shadows a family of gorillas, the last of their group to survive the merciless assault of poachers. Max bears a striking gift for communicating with the apes, but soon the precarious freedom of both is threatened as a violent rebel group from the nearby Congo draws close. This is an epic book. Oh my god, I want to read this too! Told in alternating perspectives that interweave the 2 characters and their fates, Audrey Schulman's newest novel deftly confronts the struggle between progress and preservation, idiosyncrasy and acceptance, evoking both Barbara Kingsolver and Andrea Barrett. This enthralling fiction, wise and generous, explores some of the crucial social and cultural changes that over the years have come to shape our world. An engaging story and memorable characters make this novel an ideal book club selection. Ooh, this is so good. Does anybody want to buddy read that one with me? That one would be a great buddy read. Okay, third book. This is Alex, Pheby, Playthings. Sorry, I just double check, and Pheby would be the pronunciation of that name. Sorry, Audrey Schulman was because I did check out the authors and not the synopsis, is from Montreal and now living somewhere in the States, I believe. Alex Pheby is our English man. It's Galley Beggar Britain is the I just thought these were, I liked the actual production of this book as well. I thought it was interesting, and they're a collection of new contemporary and classic fiction from the British Isles. Interesting. So just thought, it looks like an interesting publication as well as the book, so that's one of the reasons I picked it up. So Paul Schreiber, which is the character who was speaking on page 112, is a man who wants to go home, but he can't. He's a man crippled by an illness he doesn't understand, and sometimes doesn't even know he has. He's in no condition to face the worst, but the worst keeps happening to him. His family is disintegrating, past traumas are coming back to haunt him, and so are those troubling, seemingly laid to rest fears of persecution. Paul Schreiber is paranoid, and they really are out to get him. Oh, goody. Playthings, Alex Pheby's astonishing second novel, delves deep into his disturbed mind, and in doing so also unearths the roots of the great ills of the 20th century, the psychological structure of fascism, the cancer of anti-Semitism, and the abuse of institutional power. Based on the true story of a man who becomes a case study for Freud and a foundation stone of psychological makeup of the 20th century. Playthings is an intense and poetic exploration about what it means to be human. So told you I was going to keep these books. That looks good too. So that's the end of my page 112 tag. Apologies for the sound reduction for the readings. Can't do much about the accent. That's staying, honey. I might see, is there a way I can learn to read out loud? I was never taught to do that, and you know I ramble on and I interject my own humour into things and not the author's voice. But what can I do? I hope whatever you're reading that you're enjoying it. I definitely, if anybody wants to buddy read this one, I think this one will be a good buddy read. It'll take me a couple of months to get to it maybe, but and meanwhile, if you would like to subscribe, I love that. If you I love to like to comment, I love that too. But the most important thing is whatever you're reading, enjoy it. Bye now.